Hi, I'm Stellian, the creator of Am I the Problem, the Oracle play deck that's currently on Kickstarter. And today I'm going to be talking about the yellow cards, which represent the material problems. Obviously, when we talk about material problems, we're going to be talking about our possessions, we're going to be talking about our habits that relate to the physical world, as well as our own vessel and how that might create physical problems that are, of course, interconnected with the emotional problems, the mental problems, the cardinal problems, and the rest of the problems because we are always affected by all areas of our life, even if we're just focusing on one area. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the material problems, starting with card number one, money issues. So we know that society places a lot of importance and value on money. And we have created a lot of adults with money issues, even those that have money, because they believe that they should have more money. Even when they get a promotion, they know that they have to start working for the next promotion because their neighbors, their friends, their family members are doing more than them. They just upgraded their house, they just upgraded their car, and the list goes on. So, money issues is not always about having actual money issues, but rather having the mindset that you have money issues, that you're behind somebody else, that your finances are not adding up in the grand scheme of things because somebody else is earning more than you, especially someone that you know. The first card is always connected to number one, which relates to our own identity. And so, if we have preconceived notions around what it is that success represents, or we're not quite there, it's very easy for us to develop these money issues that impact our relationships. If you're dealing with someone and you're doing a reading and this card comes, it might suggest that you're dealing with someone that has the mindset that what they're doing is never enough. It's never going to be enough because they cannot catch up with the rest of the world. And so you might be dealing with someone that's quite money driven. And unfortunately, there isn't anything that you can do to support them in understanding that time, energy, these are resources that are even more precious than money. Equally, you might be dealing with someone that actually has money issues and they're hiding that. So, this is an opportunity to ask them. This is an opportunity for you to create a safe space for open conversation and connection. And if this card relates to you, maybe it's an invitation for you to consider how you're spending, how you can improve your savings, how you can improve your relationship with money overall. Is it that you wait for payday and then you go out and purchase a lot of things because you've been starving yourself financially, whether it's you haven't been eating or you haven't been purchasing things because you've been waiting for that payday, which again is another trend that we have brands using the marketing strategy to say, well, it's payday, treat yourself. There is a lot to be examined when it comes to our spending habits, our financial hygiene. And so this card is a redirection to your own identity as much as it is helping you understand other people's identities and what beliefs they might have that shape their identity. The second card is addiction. And this is where we enter the domain of values a little bit more. So, number two is about resources, but it's also about our values. It's about what we truly believe are the values in life. If we are unconscious or unclear about our values, it's very easy to live life by default. If we are conscious and clear about our values, but we're in scenarios that force us to sacrifice our values, we might get really depressed because our self expression is suppressed because there isn't a safe space for us to communicate who we are, which is where instead of us taking accountability for our communication and our expression and protecting our identity, we outsource that, we put a plaster on it, and we turn to coping mechanisms in the physical realm. Sometimes addictions, whether it's pills, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cigarettes, nicotine, whatever it may be, addiction shows up because we're suppressing a lot of pain, a lot of anger that we don't feel like it's possible for us to communicate if that pain and anger is conscious. If it's unconscious, then the work is even deeper. And that work usually relates to understanding who you are, starting with yourself. Identity building is something that probably should be taught at schools because it's currently not. Currently, we send young people and we fill their heads with other people's ideas and visions for the world, a world that probably does not even exist because we're studying the ideas of people that lived centuries before us. So instead of young people being encouraged to develop their identity and to develop their own ideas, their heads are filled with all of the other ideas that came before them. And occasionally they have a really bad teacher or a set of teachers that tell them, you don't matter, your thinking doesn't matter, your presence doesn't matter. This is the perfect foundation for addictions to be built, which is why a lot of people on earth, they don't know who they are. First of all, they don't have an identity, they don't have a foundation based on that identity, that secure attachment to themselves. They don't even have an attachment to other people around them, a secure attachment to other people around them, people that they can turn to, people that they can trust for guidance, for clarity in moments of doubt, in moments where they get lost. That is why they want the shortcut, because they have been taught to keep going, especially because this is the card number two. As the second card, this relates to number two in numerology. This relates to resources. So if you have money issues and if you've been taught to prioritize resources, possessions versus your own values and your own identity, you have this messaging by default, this wiring by default: keep going. Suppress it, shove it inside of you, whatever emotions you're feeling, and carry on. And the way people shove their emotions and carry on is through addictions. They go to the doctor and say, give me pills. I have this, and that. I don't have time to deal with it. Give me pills. And they don't face their emotions. They don't do the inner work necessary. They just keep adding on these shortcuts that turn into long term addictions. And unfortunately, by the time they're ready to actually examine what's going on, it's so complex, it's so multi layered, they don't have time or energy anymore. Addiction can also be a little bit more surface level, and it might ask of you, what are you addicted to in terms of what's wasting your time? Maybe you're scrolling on your phone an hour extra, something that you're addicted to because you're acting in an automated way without thinking too much about it. We can get addicted to a lot of things. It's not just pills or, alcohol. Addictions can be formed even to other people. They become like a drug to us. We want to spend time with them. We forget about ourselves. This card is another invitation for you to return back to yourself and examine what's going on inside of you. Why do you feel like you need to run to something outside of you or someone outside of you? What is it that about you that makes you feel like you are not enough or you are not worthy of spending time with yourself? Card number 3 is the Hoarder card. So once more, you can see the connections here. 3 is the number for communication and self-expression. And in the most positive meaning of this card, we have someone that has a lot of interests or a lot of passion for a certain aspect of life. Maybe this is fashion, like in this card where we see this person holding a lot of clothing items. Maybe this person has a repressed love for fashion, and so they don't work in the industry of fashion, but they love fashion and they love to share who they are with fashion to the point where it's become a little bit more than a hobby. They've become experts at knowing the fabrics and knowing how to style things, but a part of them is repressed, and therefore they're not allowing themselves to dream that they possibly can one day work in the fashion industry, even though that's literally their passion. So we can have the habit of hoarding developed with many different things. People collect mugs, other people collect stamps, toys, clothing items. The hoarding habit can happen across many different things. Now, the question to ask yourself is, am I collecting these items because I want to use them? Am I collecting these items because I fear on missing out on something? Am I collecting these items because I want to do something with them one day? Am I collecting these items because a part of me wants to one day work with them and create them myself? Maybe this is your way of learning about them. There is a positive reading when it comes to hoarding, but you gotta get to the root. You gotta get to the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? A person that collects a lot of things isn't automatically a hoarder, but if you feel like you've been buying a lot of things or purchasing or like collecting a lot of things, and everywhere you turn around in your house, there is something that is part of your collection The question to ask yourself is, why is this important to me? Is this because my inner child didn't have access to the toys and now I want to almost reparent myself through purchasing a lot of toys? But again, that's an aspect of your inner world that you're trying to bring out into the external instead of holding space for yourself and taking time with yourself. Again, there is nothing wrong with purchasing things that bring you joy so long as it's not a way of you to not do the inner work. So if something is bringing you joy and you plan on doing something with it, even if the rest of the world doesn't know and they're kind of projecting onto you, well, that they're just buying things because they don't know the value of money, they're just wasting money. But you have a vision, and that vision involves you collecting these items. That's one thing. But if you're using this habit of purchasing a lot of things because emotionally you feel alone, you emotionally you feel like you have no one to turn to, and this is the only thing that brings you a little bit of joy, a little bit of love, a little bit of support, and you develop a little bit like a little child playing with Barbies or a little boy playing with cars, and vice versa, because they don't have their parents paying attention to them and playing with them, so they start to play with these items. It's almost like you're regressing and you're returning back to the child inside of you, but you're the adult. And so it's okay to take some time to reparent your inner child, but don't attempt to bring back time. Try to move forward with your inner child and maybe ask your inner child, what is it that you want to do with those things now that we've bought them? How can we organize something to connect more people, to create storytelling classes, courses, videos, something to inspire other people? So, this habit of purchasing and collecting things becomes a tool for you to self express and connect with others and not further isolate yourself, thinking, well, at least I have my cars, at least I have my Barbies, at least I have my clothes, at least I have my toys. That's not how you're meant to live life. And if you have a great sense of fashion, fantastic. Then start talking about it. Start inspiring people, start connecting with people, start finding opportunities for you to be in that industry because not everyone has a sense of style. So if you have a sense of style, that's something to use as part of your mission. Card number 4 is the entitled card. And if you recently watched The Wizard of Oz, the main character, she fits the persona quite well. I think there was a scene in the movie where she's like, oh, this is new. I'm not used to not getting my way. Glinda, that is. The entitled persona and archetype is someone that can be found among our friends, among family members. They are the person that is seemingly innocent, but they're a person that works through a lot of manipulation. Their sense of entitlement has brought them a lot of opportunities, perhaps because they're so confident. They want it and they're going to get it. Their energy is almost like they're projecting that security onto the person that you're dealing with, and the other person automatically trusts them. They don't understand that a manipulation is happening or that there is this fake it until you make it energy happening. And so we see that in a lot of entrepreneurs. They feel entitled to the success and they get that success. And when you spend a lot of time with them afterwards, you might think to yourself, well, how did that person get to where they are? Because they don't even know how to do X, Y, and Z. Is that sense of entitlement. So psychologically speaking, because this is the fourth card, a person that is entitled probably has a strong security or a strong attachment to their self. But the entitled person doesn't have a strong attachment, a secure attachment to their true identity, but rather the identity that they have built to showcase the world. So, entitled people usually lack identity. They lack genuine, authentic identity. They haven't done the inner work necessary for them to know who they are. They have perfectly curated a persona that they know is going to demand respect. It's going to open doors. They have perfectly curated their outside appearance as well, especially like Wizard of Oz, Glinda. This is the case study. They wear the fashionable clothes. They speak the way that a young person or an established person is meant to be speaking, but deep down, they're a little bit corrupted, or they don't necessarily have a strong identity on their own to be able to protect that identity and to be able to work on behalf of humanity. because they're easily moved and swayed, and they are likely to prioritize protecting the identity that they have versus growing, adapting, and even sacrificing some of their comfort zone in order for them to help other people. The survival of their false identity is at the heart of an entitled person. And they feel entitled to protecting the false identity above all. So if you're dealing with someone that's entitled, you're not dealing with a real person. You're dealing with a perfectly curated persona. What's beneath it? I don't think they even know. I think there is a blank canvas that is waiting for them to actually start getting to know who they are and to start testing, experimenting, and trialing things to figure out, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I don't like that. Entitled people are often in the public eye because there are certain expectations that go when it comes to these perfectly curated personas and these perfectly curated places in the public life. And so they're a match to that. It's a surface level existence, it doesn't involve too much depth. But every now entitled people actually get access to opportunities that require the depth. And this is when the next card comes into the picture. But if the card entitled is relating to you, it's a call to ask yourself. The call is coming from the inside. It's an invitation for you to think about, what have you taken for granted? Is there something in your life that you are taking for granted, whether it's people, whether it's opportunities, whether it's even your living situation? Because you might think to yourself, well, I wish I had a bigger house. I wish that I had a better phone. I don't know, something that's in the physical realm that would get you more status or even more comfort, whatever it is. Are you taking it for granted? And how can you reframe that and wake up every day with gratitude that you have a roof over your head, that you have food in the fridge, that you get to live another day on earth, that you have, especially if you're more spiritual, volunteered to be on earth at this time, and you get to experience what it means to be human as this vessel, as your vessel, in the environment that you are finding yourself in, however imperfect and flawed it might be, however imperfect and flawed you might be. What a gift to be on earth right now. You see how that entitlement just fades away? But for many people, they cannot snap out of the illusion. Let me snap out of the illusion. So they live in that bubble. Again, Wizard of Oz, Glinda, they live in that bubble that they create for themselves. And if they find people to support their illusion, great. If not, they're removed out of the clique, out of the bubble, out of their immediate environment. Card number 5 is where we see the destiny swap happening. And this is one of my favorite cards, mostly as a concept, because it's something that I've personally experienced and it's something that I'm passionate about raising the awareness about. So, entitled people, when somebody challenges them to the point where they actually get them to snap out of the illusion, they may begin to attack that one individual and begin to steal their identity, therefore attempting a destiny swap, because they can see that there is somebody there that has done the work. They've spent years minding their own business, building themselves. So they figure out what their values are, their priorities, their goals, and so on. Meanwhile, you have this entitled person that they've been given access to the best education. Their uncle had a prestigious job. They gave them a job. Their father has a connection, so they gave them branded merchandise, access to holidays, whatever it may be, right? They've been given everything that a privileged person might have access to, but their own identity, because that's for them to figure out. And so when they meet someone that actually has that identity, they feel entitled to it. It's almost like if your whole life people have been giving you things, you almost expect that if a person with an identity comes, it's like being in a shop and browsing, and you think to yourself, yeah, this person's identity, nope, not that person, that person, I want that person's identity. Their psyche is so effed up. They're not thinking straight. They're viewing everything as some sort of browsing where you get to simply pick things and you're given them. This is how much an entitled person feels entitled to everything that's in front of them. Their whole life, they've been given things just by existing, just by them showing up in environments, people have given them things. So they're in this world, but they're not part of this world in that sense. Versus a person that has spent their whole life working to build themselves up, to learn about what triggers them, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. They've been in relationships that were abusive, they've been in relationships that were neglectful. The entitled person hasn't experienced this rich variety of experiences. They've mostly experienced the privileged part of life, where they had access to things, and when they didn't, they threw a temper tantrum, and so access to those things were given to them. Destiny swaps usually happen when a privileged person finds someone that's less privileged, but they have more ideas, they have more identity, they have more gifts. And this person, because they have more access, more resources, more money, they feel entitled to taking because that's all they know. They don't know how to give, they take. And if you've dealt with people like that, entitled people like to give things in order for them to build a false friendship, a false connection. Because from the very beginning, they wanted to take something from you, but they knew that they had to hook you. And so they gave you some gifts that to you were a big deal because if you're not privileged, receiving a gift that is, an expensive gift or a gift that seems like it's thoughtful, considerate, that's like giving breadcrumbs to a starving person. They would be grateful even for the breadcrumbs. Maybe you give them a whole bread, right? A box of breads. That means nothing to the privileged person, to the entitled person. And it's very easy to see how people get lured into connections, into relationships, into friendships, employment contracts, even where they have been lured because they're starving. They're starving for connection, for genuine connection, because they grew up in a world where they weren't privileged, even when it might have seemed that way. And entitled people, they're very good at spotting people that didn't have the same entitlement growing up because they've been trained their whole life to research what they can take. And when they see something in someone that they want to take, to them that's a challenge. To them that's okay. Let's see how we can make that. They snap their fingers, employ their clique, and ask them, do that, I want that. Yep, on it. And because they're so used to that level of privilege, they don't think that can be taken away. So if the Destiny Swap card comes into the picture in your reading, in your play, examine who have you been given access to that is more fortunate than you, that has more than you, and have they made a little bit of a trade with you where you have been consuming a lot of their emotional weight, emotional burdens. They've been complaining, they've been over explaining, they've been just giving you a lot of substance that isn't necessarily substance, but rather something to keep you hooked, something to keep you employed into that connection and relationship. Are there people that entered your life and your opportunities stopped? It's not random. Nothing is. Sometimes our life's flow gets blocked when certain people enter our life, and that flow is not unblocked until we remove those people. And maybe this is, if you want to take more accountability for your own behavior, this is a reminder for you to examine how much you're giving to people and how much you're taking. Maybe you're used to, having that friend that you call always when you have a crisis. Have you held space for them to call you when they have a crisis? And what if you didn't call anybody next time that you had a crisis and you thought to yourself, how can I figure this on my own? A destiny swap, especially in the material world, is a reminder that some of the challenges that we're going through, they're an opportunity for us to evolve and not to always automatically assume that we have to turn to somebody else, that they have to save us. It's a reminder that we can figure it out, that we're amazing problem solvers. Card number 6 is the ignorance card. This is where self-growth comes into the picture. If you feel like you don't know about a particular topic, we saw the celebrities when they were asked about the war and they were like, well, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about it. Great. Pick up a book, watch some videos, listen to some podcasts. An adult using ignorance as an excuse screams arrogance. It screams pride. It screams entitlement, right? Ignorance might happen at any point of our life. We might be ignorant about how to cook because we never had to, because life took us someplace else and it kept us occupied with other things. But there are so many cooking books that we can read. There's so many cooking shows that we can tune into. Ignorance is not an excuse. And then I think the moment that you realize that you're ignorant about something, it's the moment where the next chapter of your life begins. Because then the question is, well, how can I learn? What can I learn? How can I use what I'm learning? Why am I being brought to learn about this right now? Maybe you're ignorant when it comes to history, or you're ignorant when it comes to geography. Fantastic. You have the rest of your life to increase this inner library and to unlock more of your own inner knowledge. Ignorance is not an excuse. And if you're dealing with someone that's using ignorance as an excuse, then it's time for you to ask yourself the question: is this what I want in my friendships? Is this what I want from the people closest to me? Maybe this is even in a work context, that you have a team of 4 people and one of them is ignorant. Do you want that person on your team? A person that does not invest in their self growth. Because these are people that are going to expect of you to tell them what to do every single step of the way. Ignorance as a vice brings entitlement, it brings laziness, and it brings a lot of justifications for poor behavior or poor performance because the person is not interested in accountability. And again, if you've discovered that you are ignorant about something, take further cards. Ask, what am I ignorant about? What do I need to know about right now? This is the start of another chapter. This card is the start of the next chapter if you allow it to take you where it needs to take you. And if it reveals that somebody in your life has been using the ignorance card as an excuse for their behavior or performance or how they're showing up, it's a call for you to set some stronger boundaries and maybe even cut them off and see how your life prospers. Card number 7 is the people pleasing card. And the reason I've chosen it to be the 7th card of the material problems is because 7 is the number for connections, partnerships, and working one on one and, working in groups. If you're dealing with a people pleaser, you're not dealing with an authentic person. You're dealing with a social chameleon that is customizing their personality or their attitude and their expression to match how you're showing up so that you don't reject them, so that you don't cut them off, so that they can control how you view them. I have been a people pleaser in my life, mostly because I wanted to avoid conflict in the past and I just wanted to make people happy. And I think a lot of people begin to be people pleasers for that reason. They don't want to get people to scream at them, they don't want to get people to be experiencing these uncomfortable emotions when you express how you actually feel. But a people pleaser suppresses a lot of things. And ultimately, they're not honest. So if you're dealing with a people pleaser, you're not dealing with somebody that's honest and somebody that's giving you honesty in real time. I think they often tend to put up a front, they tend to put up a mask, but it creates a little bit of division. And you can sense that over time. In the worst case scenario, a people pleaser is someone that is there to collect information and to pass it to somebody else. They're lying to you, they're being fake, they're being manipulative, they want to befriend you for whatever reason. Maybe they're working with a destiny swapper, maybe they just want to get the secret to your success, and that's why they're kind of like people pleasing and being extra nice. But actually, that's not how they feel about you. So, if you're dealing with a people pleaser, it's important for you to address them directly and for you to ask some tough questions, even if it's not directly to them, but to yourself. Does this connection with this person feel genuine? Does it feel safe? Does it feel joyful? Or does it feel like I have to walk on eggshells? Equally, if you feel like you cannot be yourself around someone, and you have to present a different version of yourself in order for you to avoid conflict, then you've become the people pleaser. And it's essential that you, again, snap out of it because it's not healthy for you and it's not healthy for your connections. And maybe you're going to lose some people in your life, but at least you're going to be able to show up authentically and begin to work in true alignment with your true authentic self and your purpose, because you're going to be working with people that care about the same things, people that operate the same way as you. Not every single person on earth has some issues. I mean, we're flawed, but let's say that you're working with a boss that is temperamental and you have to be a people pleaser to avoid triggering them. Is this how you want to spend the rest of your life? Making sure that people don't explode just because they're mentally unstable or that they have a lot of emotionally repressed traumas that are, they're not facing. It's a call for you to take more accountability for your own actions and to examine where you are in life. And if this is where you want to spend another month, another year, or if you're done sacrificing your own boundaries and well being. Card number 8, passive aggressive. So, with passive aggressive, we tend to have people with mood swings. We tend to have people that they show us what's beneath the mask, but they try to persuade us that they've changed. Because number 8 is about transformation, and the passive aggressive person doesn't change. They change their game plan, but they don't change their identity. And if they're passive aggressive, that means that they have a lot of emotions that they're battling internally that they're not ready to resolve. That this inner work they're not equipped to handle it, but they want to have access to you. They want to have access to the opportunities. They are not equipped to handle a connection with you or the employment or the access to the opportunity, but they want it. They want to have access to something outside of them. Therefore, the material proximity and why this is a material card, but their identity is not a match to the access that they crave and desire. They're not able to manage themselves accordingly and the way they show up for others. So that's why there's a lot of build up tension in them that sometimes manifests as angry outbursts, sometimes it manifests as silent treatment. It's a false facade that they've used to gain access to something that they're not worthy of just yet. And worthy is not necessarily a an explanation around their worth, but rather they have more inner work that they need to do to solidify the identity they're trying to sell to the world. Passive aggressive people are fake. They're false. And they're going about into the world manipulating people with that false identity, with that fake identity. In the process, they might grow, they might change, but ultimately, they're so attached to the material world outside of them, they don't spend enough time with their inner world. And because of that, they keep changing the scenarios in the material world, but they haven't changed inside of them. So if you're dealing with someone that's passive aggressive, that's acting in passive aggressive ways, don't expect for them to change overnight and don't expect for them to change for quite a while. Because if you've discovered them to be passive aggressive, they've been passive aggressive for a long time. And if you yourself are starting to act in passive aggressive ways, think about if there's something in your life that's stressing you additionally. If there's something that's taking you out of balance, out of, away from the center. Maybe there's a person that's bringing a side of you that you've already outgrown and they're trying to hold you back. Sometimes you might start acting in passive aggressive ways because you're quite literally dealing with people that want to bring you back to an older version of yourself. They want to hold back your transformation. And if your transformation is afoot, there's nothing they can do. And passive aggressive people, they don't do well around people that are transforming constantly because they get attached to a particular version in the material world and they want to keep that version because that version gives them security, confidence. That is the version where they have perfected their mask for. So it's a minefield. If you're dealing with a passive aggressive person, it's a minefield. They have a lot of work when it comes to their identity building and communicating that identity. But how can you communicate an identity that doesn't exist, right? And they usually have multiple identities. They get tangled up in those identities. So it gets confusing really fast. Be cautious, set boundaries, and take your self growth journey seriously if this card shows up. Card number 9 is the Yapper, and 9 is the number for higher meaning, higher purpose, just higher knowledge. So I'm sure you've met people that talk big game, but then they're afraid to follow up with action. The Yapper card is dedicated to them. It's about the people that can spend hours talking about their plans, but when it's time for action, they're like, no, I'm not ready. But what if, actually, no, let me change that a little bit more. So they spend another window with somebody else talking about their dreams, and it's time for action. The day has come. No, okay, no. I know a better idea, right? And this goes on for days, months, years. I've met people like that. I've been around people like that, and it's a waste of time. It really is a waste of time. Friendships with yappers that don't follow up with action, it's a waste of time. And I think sometimes the matrix, the system that we're part of, pairs up with people like that to test our commitment, to test our boundaries, to see if we have figured out the importance of our life and the importance of our goals, and if we're going to allow people to waste our time, or if we're going to set the boundaries necessary for us to focus on our dreams and goals and actually do something about them. And usually, what happens when people realize they're on yappers that never planned on doing something about their dreams and goals, they get so focused on their own journey after they've set boundaries and cut off people that they zip their mouth and they don't say anything about their journey. They start to move in silence. People that have suffered delays and detours because of their proximity to yappers, their connections to yappers, their friendships, relationships with yappers, not only do they set boundaries, but they learn the lesson. Move in silence. Moving in silence when you have big goals, that's one of the cheat codes. Because even the walls have ears. And if we know something about our spiritual abilities and being enhanced in the last decade or so, we also know that there are a lot of practices, spiritual practices, that quite literally might give us proof that the walls have ears. Something called astral projection. But I'm not going to talk more about it in this video. What I'm going to say is if the upper card comes into your journey, examine, are you talking too much? Are you spilling secrets? Are you spilling your dreams and goals to people that might not be as protective over those dreams and goals and secrets, or that don't care equally? Is this a goal for you to move in silence? Or are you giving your energy and resources to people that just talk big game, but they're not interested in actually doing something about their goals because they're wasting your time? Whatever the answer may be, the Yapper brings a change into your material world because you do something different about the way that you live your life after seeing the Yapper card. And card number 10, the mirroring card, is closing the material cards and it's closing the journey. 10 is about completion. And one of the most disappointing things that can happen on your journey is to figure out that a person that you've trusted, a person that you've built with, is not who they say they are. It's a shadow of the person that they say they are for whatever reasons. And in any aspect of your life, you might find that you've started to build a business with someone. And after years of building with them, you realize that they're not who they say they are, that they've been faking it, that they've been presenting a false identity, they've been mirroring who you are. And all this time, you've been carrying the business yourself, and that they took advantage of the access that you gave them. And they made it seem like that vision was shared when it was your vision all along. How many stories have we heard now of people that even have their business ideas stolen by their business partner? So the mirroring card might show up on your journey when you have a shadow of some sorts in your life, somebody that's presenting to be someone that they're not by mirroring you and kind of making it appear as if this was always a shared idea, that you needed them, that you've been waiting for them, when in reality it was always you, your idea, your vision, your voice, your story, your presence, your gifts. The mirroring card shows up to warn us. It shows up to realign us back to center, back to ourselves. And once again, it's about detachment. A lot of people like to spend their lives attached to people, places, positions. And they forget about their value, their importance, their power. The mirroring card might be a call for you to detach. You will be okay. You don't need to place so much importance on the people around you and devalue yourself to that extent. You will be okay even if you have to go through a chapter on your own. Many people waste years of their life in relationships and in employment because they're scared that they will not be able to survive on their own, even though they can. Equally, if the mirroring card shows up on your path, it's an invitation to examine, have you been so dependent on somebody that you've kind of become a shadow of yourself by trying to be more like them out of fear that they might leave you if you're too different? Because we tend to start mirroring people when we're infatuated with them. We let go of our own habits, we let go of our own hobbies. We want to become like the people that we love. But if it comes at the cost of losing yourself, it's not worth it. It's not the way that it's meant to be. So we can end up being the shadows ourselves. And this is where the completion happens. When you've learned that you've become a shadow of yourself, you take a step back and you start to build yourself up. But if you learn that somebody else is a shadow of themselves and not their true self, you gotta keep them at a distance because they're gonna keep taking and they're gonna keep disappearing in the process. And who knows what they're capable of. Again, think about the stories about people who have had their whole life stolen from them. Sometimes it starts with an entitled person, sometimes, there's a destiny swap. And when the mirroring comes at the end of the picture, you might actually get somebody that completely embodies you and you've disappeared. We need you and we need your authenticity. And anyone that's pretending to be someone that they're not, eventually their mask is going to crack, their identity is going to be revealed to have no foundation whatsoever, but to be the compilation of other people's characteristics. We've seen that also with celebrities when they have their impersonators. Those impersonators, they don't exist. Their identity has now been deleted entirely. And what's the point? Quite frankly, there is no point. Their soul's evolution has been moved to the trash bin, essentially. And if you care about your own evolution, if you care about breaking the generational patterns and rising above your limitations, the limitations of yesterday, Am I the Problem is going to assist you. These 80 cards are designed to assist you on your self growth journey and on your quest to finding belonging on Earth. It starts with understanding yourself and beginning to understand other people. So, if you're watching this video before the 1st of January, you can join the Kickstarter campaign and help us actually turn this 80 card deck into a 90 card deck. Because if we successfully fund the campaign, we're going to unlock an additional category, which is going to be a surprise category. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about the material cards, the material problems, leave a comment and I'll respond. And next, we are continuing with the energetic problems or the pink cards. So stay tuned.